Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about how the action cards work, the new action cards work for Marine Worlds, the expansion for Ark Nova. Now, we talked about a little bit of how you will get these special action cards and how many in a previous video. But we're going to actually be talking about how these new ones work if you were to have them for your round, for your game. And we even have a regular association action right here as a point of reference, so you can see the differences between them. So first, let's start with the association action. So you'll notice right away that this is exactly the same here at the very top, but then the rest of this here is obviously not on this one. So with this one, you can take partner zoos from the supply instead of the association board. You may take partner zoos you already have. So this is really interesting. Let me get my partner zoos, just, because, hold on, I should have had this ready to go. So normally you could only take obviously one at a time, and only what's on the association board. You would never be able to, take something that wasn't there, right? If you have this association action, it means not only can you take just simply from, well, the supply here, but you can take something you already have. So if you already have this in your zoo, you could take another Australia partnership if you wanted to. That means instead of your Australian animals costing 3 less, they would cost 6 less. So that's an amazing action for sure, right? That's already amazing on its own that you can do something like that. So that's what you can do with that side of the association action. So let's see what you get to do with the other side of this one. And as a point of reference, we flip over the other side. Now, so let's see here. Everything up to this point is exactly on this card here. So you can take partner zoos and universities from the supply. You may take those you already have. So now, not only if you've upgraded this action to red, not only can you still take basically what you want from, partner zoos, like to Australia, for instance, you can also take 2 universities. So this card breaks the rule that allows you to take multiples, and you can even take those you already have. So remember, we talked about this. If you were to take, for instance, this one, it means you only get one of these potential tiles. But if you have this association action, you can take you can take these science institutes as many as you want, basically. Well, you can only have 3 max, right? So now you could, in a sense, take 3 of these, which is game-breaking. Well, not game-breaking, but it is definitely amazing for sure. And it's the only card that lets you do this. So normally, you'd only get 1 of these at most in your zoo, in your game, per player. But with this, you get to break that rule, and you could take 3 of these. Obviously not at the same time, but during the course of the game. You could take 3 if you upgrade the association action. So this is something you're definitely going to want to upgrade for sure if you get this one, right? Or choose it. So that's how that's going to work. The only one that lets you do that. Amazing, amazing thing. So that's how that association action is going to work. Okay? Okay, so the next one. The next one is, okay, so here we go. Instead of supporting a conservation project, you may hire 1 new association worker at 5. So normally, when you take the conservation action, this one here, which basically obviously lets you support a conservation project, if you put your association worker here, you can instead hire 1 new association worker, meaning you can get more association workers. Instead of having 1, you'll have 2. And it gives you definitely a different option if you can't support a conservation project in the beginning of the game, which may be the case, it gives you something to do at the 5-tier level for sure. That's an amazing action on its own. So another amazing action, if you get this one, man, it's another amazing association action. But remember, you can only get one at most of the associations. So which one would you choose? This one or the last one? This one's awesome too. But we're not done. We still got the upgrade side, right? So what's the difference on the upgrade side? Well, you may take additional workers to reduce the required strength by 2 each. So if you've upgraded this, so now if you've upgraded it, that means you can use your association workers to reduce the cost, or reduce the cost of something. So, maybe you don't have any X tokens, and you only have the 3-tier slot, and you really want to support a conservation project at 5. Well, you could use 2. You could use an additional worker to reduce the required strength. So you could place 2 workers here instead of 1 to reduce the cost of this. So that way, this becomes basically a 3, which is awesome as well. So it gives you a reason why you definitely want to get a lot of association workers to obviously have some better turns in the future for sure. Being able to do something at a weaker level without using those X tokens or having them around is something you might want to do, but that's something you can do. So that's how that one is going to work. We still have 2 more association actions to go over. Okay. So with this one, you can gain 1 X marker if X is higher than the value of the task performed. So let's go back to the association board to explain this further. Let's say you have your association worker on, let's say you have your association action on 5. That means you could put your worker here to do that. But let's say you can't do that right now. Or you want something else, like maybe you want that, for instance. Or even that. Well, if you do that, if you go for something lower on the association board, even though your association action is on the 5 slot, it means for your troubles, you gain an X token as well. That's cool. So that's how that's going to work. Cool. Okay, so let's go to the next side. Okay. All right, so in addition, you may have 1 donation. That's pretty much the same, obviously, but for which you may pay, you pay 1 less for each max marker you have. So this affects your donations. This is why you want to get a bunch of X tokens. It's for this side of the red, for upgrading this to the other side. Because for every X token you have, you're going to pay 1 less money whenever you donate. So whenever you take the donation action, let's say you got it early or late. Let's say you got it late and you have to pay 10 money to donate just to increase your conservation point by 1. But let's say you have 5 X tokens. That means it's only going to cost you 5. Basically, that's how that works. Simple, easy, definitely something that could be potentially useful. Okay, and 1 more association action. Okay. At 5, you may place this action card on 1 instead perform another action. Okay, so it comes down to the point where you have your association action on the 5 location. But you can't perform it because you don't have association workers. What do? Normally, it just sits there until you take a break, a coffee break, and then you get all your association workers back, and then you can finally move that association action, right? By taking the action. But that does mean, while you've been waiting all this time, your other actions have been in the lower tier locations, which has not been useful to you, right? This allows you, if you have it on the 5 location, to basically put it on the 1 location. So it's like, hey, I don't have association workers, but I have this, so I'm going to move my association action to the 1 slot and take another action, moving everything else up, obviously. And, ooh, now my card's action is at the 5 slot. Perfect. Yay. That works out better for me. So that's basically what that does. You can perform another action instead. Awesome. Right? Okay. What's the other side do? Okay. So this is something instead of a donation. So instead of making a donation, you can draw up to your reputation range or just draw a card. So that's cool. So let's say you don't want to donate or you don't want to waste your money. You don't have enough money to donate, right? I've always considered that annoying because sometimes I just don't have the money to donate, or I don't have enough, or I'm trying to save it for an animal, right? So what do? Well, what's the point of upgrading this other than for a couple other reasons? Well, if you had this one, it'd give me something else to do. Ooh, now I can draw a card instead. I like that idea much better. As a free action instead of obviously donating, pretty much. But of course, I still have to perform the association action. This is just instead of making a donation. Pretty cool. But that's how the association actions are going to work. Now, let me get my cards action so we can look and see the difference in the cards action. Okay. Okay. So let's see. What looks different? Anything look different here? Well, this is the normal one, right? Well, you'll notice right away, this has a discard, this has a discard, this has a discard, right? No discard here at all. In fact, if you look at the card closely, you'll notice it's got an X on the discard. That means this card's action does not make you discard cards. So if you have this action, you don't have to worry about discarding cards when you draw cards. Now you can just draw a card when it's at the 1 tier without discarding. Same thing with 2. Same thing with 3, but now you can draw 2, obviously, and 2 at 4, and then, of course, 3 at 5. But you don't have to discard. That's pretty sweet. That's the differences. Pretty cool, right? Pretty easy. But let's look to the other side and see what the red side does. Well, still no discarding, obviously. Oh, you can snap, obviously at the 3 tier, but so can you over here, right? So, what's the difference? Ooh, there is one difference besides that. Look, we've got this functionality here. Oh, that's the same still. No, the difference is now you get to draw 4 cards instead of discarding, obviously. So you still don't have to worry about discarding cards at all. And everything's the same up here. So the only thing is still, once again, you don't have to discard cards. That's the only thing that this does. It just doesn't make you discard cards. It's still very useful for sure. It's still a good one, I'd have to say. But it's certainly not the best action out there for sure. So that's cards for that one. Okay, next we have this one. Notice anything different with these two? Well, everything down here is the same, right? But you'll notice it has a pig on it, and it says, first, do this. Digging 1. Well, we've explained what digging is. It's an action from the base game where, well, I guess that there's some animals in this game that have it too, that basically let you do one of 2 things. Digging will allow you to obviously discard a card from your hand and then draw a card. So you can do that as an action first, before you do this. Or you can discard a card from the display and replenish, right? That's what digging has always done. It's always letting you choose those 2 things. And that's what it's letting you do first before you take the cards action. Before you even take a break, for that matter. Or should I say move the coffee mug, for that matter. That's cool, right? So what does the red side do? Well, it lets you basically do digging twice now. That's the only difference. It lets you do digging twice. So once again, not the best card in the world. Probably the last one was actually probably better than this one, honestly. Okay, but that's what those do. Okay, so what does this one do? What's anything different here at all? Anything at all? Let's see. Well, you'll notice right away you can perform a snapping with this one as early as tier 3 or level 3. It's still only level 5 here. So that's the only difference on this side. You can perform a snapping at a much lower tier. Okay, well that's something. What's the other side do? Anything different here? Well, now you can perform the snapping at level 2. But that's not all it does. It means when you're at the 5 tier, you can do a snapping action twice. That's cool. Twice. And snapping from the display. Oh, that's awesome. So that's what that one does. Pretty good one for sure. Okay. All right. So what does this one do? Okay, well, everything is the same up top and in the middle. But you'll notice we have thing here, 2 money, and this action here, this type of action. So basically, after you take the card's action, you can spend 2 money to move an action of your choice to the level 1 slot. That's what that does. Not the best card in the world out there for sure. Not the best one. But that's something that it does. It's the clever action. Some of the animals are clever in this game. It is basically a clever action that you get to take for the cost of just 2 money. That's something worth doing, maybe. When you take that action. What does the red side do? Any changes with the red side, or is it still all the same? Well, the only difference here is you can take the clever action for free. So on the blue side, you have to pay 2 money to do it. But on the red side, after you take the card's action, you can do the clever action for free. Still probably not the best card's action there is, but that's what it does. So, okay. So that's it for cards. Let's do build next. We're going to save animals for last, like I always do, right? Okay, or should I say animal actions for last? Okay. So what's different here with the build actions? Obviously, this is the basic one. The only difference is down here. You may pay 3 money to build 1 additional pavilion. Okay, that's what that does. So if you want to fill in your zoo faster, that might be something worth doing because hey, when you put a pavilion in, you get an appeal too. So you're basically spending 3 money, or should I say 1 extra money. To do this in addition to building something. That's what it's letting you do. Okay, so what does the red side do? Anything different here? You may pay 2 money to build 1 additional pavilion. You may pay 2. So the only difference here is now it only costs 2. The regular price to build a pavilion. Okay? The regular price. As an additional build to what else you're also building, right? That's what that means. That's what it does. Obviously not the best build action there is, or action period. But that's what that does. Okay. This one is exactly the same as the last one, except it's for kiosk instead. You can pay 3 additional money to build 1 additional kiosk. Okay? That means the red side is going to be the same. You can pay 2 money to build 1 additional kiosk. So, kiosk, pavilion, they're about the same in my eyes. So, that's how they work. Nothing super special about those. Definitely, so there's definitely some action cards we're seeing that are really, really good, while others are kind of like, middle ground, not as great, you know. Okay, so far we've done 2 build actions, and they weren't that great. So are there any good build actions out there? Well, what's the difference between this one and that one? +1. That's the difference. So when you take your build action, the size of the enclosure that you can build is evident by where your build action is located. If it's on the 4 slot, that means you can only build a 4 size enclosure max, right? But with this, you can actually, it's +1, so if it's on the 4 slot, you can build a 5 size enclosure. That's pretty cool. Much better than the last 2, for sure. That's how that works. What does the red side do? This one is cool. The red side is where it's at. So, once again, you can build with the +1 on it. But obviously, with normal build, in normal build, you can build different buildings. You can build 1 or more different buildings, right? So, plus the 1. So, if you had it on 5, you could build a 5 size enclosure and a 1 size enclosure, basically, right? Because those are different building sizes, plus you had it on a 5, plus you get +1, basically, right? Cool. However, you may also build more than one of the same standard enclosure. So let's say, for instance, I had it on 5 and I'm getting +1, so that's 6. I could build 2 3-size enclosures because they're the same size, and that would equal 6. Basically, right? Cool. That's really useful, I think. That's probably the best build one so far, right? In my eyes, it's the best one so far. And hey, I got to play with it. It was awesome. But this one is even better than the last as far as build is concerned. So, with this one, you may pay 2 money to cover 1 rock or water space. So, what you build, you can pay 2 additional money with what you're building to cover a rock or water space. Ho 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 ho. That's the best one. Best build action for sure. That is phenomenal. Of course, it will make it harder to fill in your zoo, but still, oh, man, if you want more animals in your zoo, that's the card. I'm just saying, that's the card. Okay, so what's the other side do? Well, with this one, you may cover 1 rock or water space and gain 2 money if you do. So the other one, the blue side, makes you pay 2 money to cover a rock or water space with a building. This one, if you do cover a rock or a water space with a building that you build, you gain 2 money. So not only do you not pay to do it, but you're getting 2 money too. So basically, you're getting your money's back. You're getting your money's worth back, basically. But phenomenal. This one is awesome. Best build action there is, I think. So that's it for the build actions. So now we will do sponsor actions. So we're almost done. This is obviously a little long, but we'll be done soon because there's only 8 more actions to go over. Okay, so what's the difference between these 2 sponsor cards? The bottom, obviously. With this one, additionally, you may trade 1 X marker token for 5 money, or vice versa. So if you have 5 money, you can spend 5 money to get an X marker. If you have an X marker you don't want, you can use it to get rid of it for 5 money. That's what this sponsor's action is letting you do. That's different from this. What does the red side do? Okay. Well, additionally, you may trade yada yada yada, which we just explained on the blue side, or you can pay either for 1 reputation. So now instead of just simply, spending your X markers for 5 money, or spending 5 money for X markers, you can spend an X marker to increase your reputation. You can spend 5 money to increase your reputation. Vice versa, right? That's cool. Not the best one probably, but cool. Okay, so that's how that sponsor's card works. Okay, what does this one do? If you gain money during this action, gain 3 more. So if you take a break with these, if you take the sponsor's action just to simply gain money, then you get 3 money more. If you play a sponsor's card that gives you money, the sponsor card actually gives you some money. When you play it at that exact moment, you gain 3 more money during this turn, during this action. Not turn, action. That's cool. That's how that's going to work. Okay? What does the red side do? Well, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is you gain 5 money instead of 3. Awesome. We don't need to explain any further. That pretty much explains itself, right? Okay, so let's move on. So with this one, you may discard 1 sponsor card to gain 4 money. Sometimes I get these sponsor cards that I'm just never, ever going to use. Or they just don't work for my zoo. Or, hey, I got another native birds one, which I'm not going to use, ever. I'm just not going to use it. So what do I do with these? Well, at some point they get discarded because I have to discard down to my hand limit, right? Or, if I have this sponsor's card, now I can discard that native birds for 4 money. Oh, I like that much better. What does the red side do, though? Well, additionally, you may discard 1 card to gain 4 money. So I can do that to gain 4 money, or I can reduce the level of the played card by 2. So that's interesting. So for instance, let's say I want to play a sponsors card, and it's at 6. It's one of those 6s, right? Well, you don't have a level 6 in this game, and I don't have any X tokens. What am I going to do? How am I going to play this sponsor card I want to play, but I can't play because I didn't upgrade the 6 or whatever. Well, you know, or, I mean, +1 here, but let's just say I can't get it because it's just not high enough. I'm only at 4 or something like that, right? Well, I can discard another sponsor card to reduce the level of the played card by 2. So that means I can now play that sponsor card, basically. For that's cheaper to play now. Easier to play if I couldn't play it for some reason, right? That's how that's going to work, I believe. Okay, I'm not going to look it up. I'm pretty sure that's what that means, though. Let's move on. If I get one card wrong, it's not going to be a big, huge deal. Just don't play with it. It's not the best sponsor card in the world anyway, honestly. Okay? I mean, it's okay. It's not the best, though. Okay, so let's move on. We got one more sponsors card, and I want to finish this video if I can in 30 minutes, if possible. Okay, additionally, you may discard one sponsor card to take one sponsor card from the display into your hand. So with this sponsor card, additionally, you can discard a sponsor card to take a sponsor card that's in that display up there and put it into your hand. So maybe you have a sponsor card you don't like, but there's a sponsor card right there, and you want it, but you just simply can't get it because you don't have the card's action in a high enough spot to perform a snapping, or your reputation range isn't high enough to get that sponsor card. But if you have this sponsor action, I can just simply discard that sponsor card I'm not going to use. Native Birds. Yes. Now I can get the sponsor card I want, which is Sea Turtle Tank. Yay. That's how that works. Okay, so what does the other side do? All right. Well, in addition to the break, you may discard one card to take the marketing action. So, for instance, so let's say you take the sponsor's action and you're going to gain money with it. Okay. In addition to the break, because that's what you're doing, you're breaking. In addition to the break, you may discard one card to play a sponsor card, but instead of playing it on the tier level, you're playing it based on the tier level but the amount of money. So if it was a 6 tier, okay, 6 tier, you're paying 6 money to play that sponsor card. Okay, so it gives you something else for you to use your money on. Not the best card in the world, but, you know, sometimes you just don't want to upgrade your sponsor's action, but you want to play that 6 sponsors card. And what do? Well, this could help you in that situation. Okay, so that's it for sponsors. We got sponsors over with. Now, we get to do animals. Okay, so what's the difference here on these animals? What's the difference? Well, it's basically the icon plus what this says. If you play only one animal at 5, you may ignore one condition. So, you know, some of those animals require several conditions. Maybe they just require one condition, but you don't have that condition. Here. Let's say you want to play this Komodo dragon into your zoo, but you only have one Asia icon. Okay? You don't have 2, just 1. What do? Well, with this action here, if I have my animals action at the 5 tier location, instead of playing 2 animals, I could play just 1, but I could ignore that other pesky icon that I need in order to play the Komodo dragon. Amazing. That's a good one. I like that. Let's move on. What does the red side do? Okay, well, the red side's basically the same, basically. But now, instead of at the 5 tier location, at the 3 tier location, you can play 1 animal and ignore 1 condition, obviously. So that's the difference. Not a huge difference from the first side, for sure, but still. The same thing as the first side, except you can do it at tier 3, level 3. Okay, cool. Moving on. It's not going to be under 30 minutes. Oh well. Only got 3 left. Okay, so what's the difference with this one? Well, if you have no animal card in hand after finishing this action, you get to perform the Hunter 4 action. What does that mean? sometimes when you take the animal's action, you run out of animals. And so then you're going to be wanting to draw cards to find more animals, right? Well, now you don't have to waste an action getting some cards, because you can take, if your hand doesn't have any animals in it after you play your animal cards into your zoo, well, you can take the hunter action, draw 4 cards, and if there's an animal in those 4 cards, you take one out. You choose one to take, discarding the others. So it ensures you get one animal if there was an animal in those 4 cards drawn. Still, there's a good possibility there's at least one, right? So that's what that does. What does the other side do, though? You know, it's basically the exact same thing, except it's a Hunter 6 action. So instead of 4 cards you're drawing 6 cards, and then taking one of those 6, and that's how that works. So, simple, easy, awesome. Let's move on. Okay, with this one, the first animal you play costs 2 less. So if you play an animal, if you play 2 animals, only the first one you play is going to cost 2 less. So hey, it just gives you a nice little subtraction to your cost, you know, pay a little less, a cheaper deal. I mean, you might have some cheap deals with your partnerships and stuff, but still, it's something, right? Okay, so what's the red side do? Additionally, for each animal you play, you may pay 2 money to gain 1 appeal. So if I was to play 2 animals, and I paid 2 money for each of them, so 4 money, I could get 2 additional appeal. Well, that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. Not the best one in there is, but it's kind of nice. Okay, and this is the coup de grace, the best probably animal card I've seen. This is a new type of action called marking, or in this case, mark. So after you perform the animal's action, you get to mark a card in the display. So let's zoom out. So marking basically means, let's say, we're going to explain this again probably in the next video about animals, since there's one animal that has this ability. But when you take the marking action, or this particular mark action, you get to put a cube of your color on one of the face-up animals in the display. So, ooh, I want that Komodo dragon. So I'm going to put it there. Now, 2 things could potentially happen here, or a few things could potentially happen. Let's say you mark an animal, and a player takes that Komodo dragon. What? You're taking my Komodo dragon? How dare you? What happens then? Well, if they take your animal and put it into their hand, you get 2 money from the bank. So, consolation prize. You get 2 money. You don't get your Komodo dragon, but you do get 2 money. So that's something. However, if nobody takes it, at some point, that Komodo dragon is going to get discarded. It's going to slide down into the display, and it's going to get discarded. But if it's been marked, any animals that are marked, that have your marker on it, once they get discarded, instead of getting discarded, you get to put it into your hand. And now I've got my Komodo dragon. Yay! That's how that works. Okay, cool. Now, there's something to mention, so let's flip it to the other side. Okay, red side here. So, when you play animals on your red side, you can also play animals up to your reputation range. You'll notice the action here, it says you can play cards from your hand, and it says you can play cards up to your reputation range, okay? So you don't have to pay the money, but you can play an animal from here as if it was an extension of your hand if you've upgraded the animal's action. And this is the regular animal's action, right? What happens if, for instance, this Komodo dragon is marked and it's in the display, and I decided to play it from the display? What happens then? Well, what's going to happen is I still get my 2 money because it wasn't discarded in the end. So not only do I get to still play my Komodo dragon because I'm playing it thanks to this action, or should I say this action for that matter, I'm getting 2 money as well as getting to play it. That's cool. But this does something else as well. You can gain 1 reputation for any animal card you play from the display that has your marker on it. So this is an addition. So not only do I get the 2 money that I would get if I was on the blue side, well, red side, right? I'd also get 1 reputation as well. Okay, so I would, if I was doing this at this location and played 2 animals, right? And I got a reputation here, I'd still get the reputation over here as well. That's amazing. Reputation, money, and getting to play my favorite animal because it's been marked. Can't get any better than that. And that's how that's going to work. So that's it for how all of the animal and all the other action cards work. So thank you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll talk about the animals in the next video. How's that? All right, bye.